No one understands me. It's wonderful when you have some friends who really empathize with you. They get you. They understand you. We've all experienced that before. That friend who can come alongside us and without us even saying everything that we think they need to hear, they get it. They get us, they get our situation, and they're right there with us, empathizing, understanding. It's a beautiful part of good friendship. Empathy is a wonderful thing. It's great to have people with you in your situations. One instance of that involves a small child who was sent by his mom to go down the road and get a loaf of bread and bring it back, buy it. And on the way, the child saw a little kid whose tricycle had broken. Now, he stopped and was with that child, but it delayed him getting back to his mom. When he finally got back, his mom said, "Where have you been? I've been worried sick about you." And the boy just said, "Well, Mom, on the way back, I saw a kid whose tricycle was broken." And his mom said, "Well, I didn't know you could fix tricycles." And the boy said, "Well, Mom, I can't. I just stood there and cried with him." Yes, it's true. Empathy is a beautiful, wonderful thing. We see it as wonderful when it occurs, and then we see how terrible it is when we don't get empathy. When we see that people aren't understanding, they're not getting us. A fun instance of that has to do with the Indiana Department of Social Services. And a letter was sent out from this department to a man who had passed away. And the letter read this way: "Your food stamps will be stopped in March because we received notice that you passed away. You may reapply if there is a change in your circumstances." When people don't get our situation, they don't understand our problem. They don't understand us. It's a hurtful thing. It's something that is difficult to take because empathy is so important. Being understood matters so much. And people being with us in our problems and circumstances matters so much. With that in mind, I want to share with you this truth about God when it comes to you. That God does get you. God does empathize with your situations, your problems, your circumstances. In fact, every one of them. The big problems, the tiny problems, the little inconveniences, to life-changing issues. God gets it all. God understands your situation, and He understands you. God has perfect empathy for everything going on in your life, so that He is with you in your circumstance, with you, no matter what's going on in your life, always with you, always getting it. So if a person ever cries out to God and says something like, "You just don't get it, you just don't understand me," we can understand that frustration, but bear in mind that it's never actually true. God instead is always understanding, always getting it. He always gets you. Now, He tells us that in many different ways, in many different times throughout the Bible. Here's a couple of examples. In Hebrews chapter 4, we read these words: "For we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who has been tempted in all things as we are, yet without sin. We have one who can empathize, who can sympathize with our weaknesses, because He too has been tempted in everything." In Matthew chapter 28, we read these words: Jesus said these as the final words on earth. I am with you always, even to the end of the age. We see him declaring that he is always understanding, always empathizing, always with us in our circumstance. In fact, someone did a study about all the times that God desires to encourage people and what he says in those times. Like this instance, the final words while he's on earth. And they found that in each instance, God says the same thing. He says, I'm with you. He is saying, I get it. I am there. I do understand the situation, the problem. I do understand you. So when we think back at all the times that our friends were so wonderful and so helpful because they were there, because they showed up in our problems, and because they understood and they got it, what a beautiful thing to realize. God has that. God has that empathy. God is showing up. God is there. But here's the real beauty in knowing that. It's that God's not only there, he not only shows up, he's not only present, he's not only getting the situation, but God is all powerful to do something about your situation. He knows about it and can do something about it. And if we trust in him, not only will he be present, but he will do marvelously. He will do wonderful things with every circumstance and situation in our life. God shows up and God does. So we read, for example, in Matthew 15, these words. So the crowd marveled as they saw the mute speaking, the crippled restored, and the lame walking, and the blind seeing, and they glorified God. In whatever way we are crippled, in whatever way we are blind or lame, God is able to restore that. God is able to do in that circumstance because he's able to do in every circumstance. One popular phrase that the psalmist would say over and over would be this: God, arise. God, do. God, be marvelous. And that's what God does in your life. He arises. He does. He acts marvelously. In fact, in Psalm 91, we read these words: because he has loved me, therefore I will deliver him, says God. I will set him securely on high because he has known my name. He will call upon me and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will rescue him and honor him. These are God's words to us, that he will rescue us in trouble, honor us, do marvelously, and arise. What a wonderful and great God we serve when we can sit back and realize that he empathizes with your situation, he understands it, and then he acts on that situation. God is like that boy who came beside the small child with the broken tricycle, and he cries with, and he sits with, and he understands, and he lingers with us. But unlike that boy who cried with at the tricycle, God does much more than that. He cries with, and then he restores. He cries with, and he delivers. He cries with, and he gives sight to the blind. He cries with, and he cures the crippled and the lame. God cries with you. He understands. He is always there. But then God always does and always will do. It is just what we read in Psalm 138:8 when God said, the psalmist said, he, God, will accomplish what concerns me. God will always accomplish what concerns you. He will always understand He will always do. He will always accomplish. Believe on Him and trust in Him with every circumstance you've got, the big and the small. And let God show Himself as the one who is empathetic and as the one who always delivers. It has been so nice to be with you for these stories and these passages and this lesson today. I hope you'll check out all of the devotionals because they are hand-picked stories that may change your life, hand-picked scriptures that may change your life, or at least your day. Thank you for being with us. Click the like button if you like this video. Subscribe. Be with us for every devotional published on Wednesday and every question published every Sunday as we look at all of the top 50 questions asked about Christianity. Hope you'll be with us for all of it. And remember, for every question, there's always an answer.